I'm going to kick off episode 7, and it doesn't have a title yet because usually we come up with the title through our conversation, so we'll see what that's going to be. And so today I have with me Rachel Galan, and she works at Caddo Mounds State Historic Site. That's correct, right? That's the title?
That is it. Caddo Mounds State Historic Site.
Perfect. And we have long been collaborators, I think. And I like using the word collaborator because it sounds like something underground, or I don't know.
Like, well, sometimes it feels that way a little bit.
Yes, exactly. So we've been collaborators for a long time, and I love getting to talk to you, and I haven't had a chance to lately. So I thought I would invite you to be on the podcast and get a chance to chat with you.
Which sounds like a great idea. I certainly miss getting to see you and collaborate on things. So this is awesome.
Yeah, great. Well, we're going to start off. First of all, I want to mention, we're still in the library, or I am. You're not. I'm not here yet.
No, but, sadly not in the library, yeah.
Yes. And what we have going on here is we've actually opened partially. We're having people that are able to come in for pickup. They order ahead and then they can pick up books. And so that's what's going on here right now, but we're not open to the public just yet. And so my job has completely changed in the last few months. I used to try to get as many people as possible to come in the library. And so now, obviously, I can't do that. So I have to reach them in a different way. And so that's kind of what brought about this podcast and some of the other things that we're doing now so that we can still respond to the public's needs. So my week this week has consisted of making a trailer for summer reading, which is kicking off. Well, it's officially kicked off, but our video series is starting next week. And so we did a trailer that has the staff gearing up for our fairy tale theme. So we've got swords, princess hats, castles made out of cardboard, very silly stuff. And it's mostly for kids. And so hopefully, we plan to also have some things for adults as well. But right now we're focusing on the kids because that's the biggest part of summer reading is keeping kids reading while they're out of school. And that's especially important since they've been out of school for a much longer time. So we try to find ways to incentivize, continuing to read. And I'm proposing that some of our things for our adults are going to include some of the outtakes from these videos that we're making, which is, they're pretty hilarious. So maybe to only to us, but we're going to find out. So we're going to put that out there. And in fact, maybe if we have time, I'll let you hear a little clip from yesterday if you're interested.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're very silly over here. But we want to hear from the people about what they want. So everybody's encouraged to email and call and Facebook message us. We're very much here all day and answering messages. And we're public librarians, so because we want to serve the community's needs, and now it's just in a different shape. And so we're going to keep trying to do that in whatever shape that takes. And you also serve the public. Can you talk a bit about what you do and how that's changed?
Yeah, it has changed. So I am the assistant site manager at Caddo Mounds, and we are an early prehistoric Caddo Indian site. And Caddo Indians were some of the first people of Texas, and that's where we get the name Texas. It comes from the Caddo word Texas, which means friend, and then the Spanish took that to be Tejas, and then it became Texas. So they are actually who gave us our name. But we work to preserve the land. There's about 400 acres out at Caddo Mounds. There's 3 big earthen mounds that the Caddo built over 1,000 years ago. And we tell that story and their story, and we're still associated with the Caddo people. They're a living people. And so they're very much involved in our site and how we tell their stories. We have a museum right now. It's a temporary museum. We had a beautiful Caddo grass house But April 2019, the site was all of the buildings, all the structures were completely destroyed by a giant EF3 tornado. So we are
Mm.
in the process of figuring out rebuilding and healing personally and ourselves and our community,
Mm-hmm.
and what that looks like. We're in the process of working with the Historic Commission and architects and builders to rebuild the museum out there, and learn to live in this new world. So for all of us working, in jobs where we're used to working with the public and offering programs and doing things, we're now looking at how to do that in a really meaningful, rich way virtually. So it's a lot of adapting, a lot of change, and um, but I'm super fortunate because I have a beautiful 400 acres. Social media is part of my job, so I run around taking
Mm.
pictures of beautiful things, and we have a 50 by 50-foot education kind of interpretive garden, Snake Woman's garden. So I spend a lot of time in the garden too. So that's pretty awesome.
Yes, it's beautiful. I love every day seeing the posts from the site. They're gorgeous.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it's a really wonderful place to be.
yes, for sure. And if anybody is not already following Caddo Mounds on social media, do that because there's really great photography. And of course, updates on all the cool things that you're doing out there too. So, yeah. Well, I have my first book recommendation is actually sort of had you in mind. Speaking of the site, there's a book coming out in July, and it's called The Well Gardened Mind: The Restorative Power of Nature,
Mm,
and and it's by Sue Stewart Smith, who I'm not personally familiar with, but
mm.
she's a psychiatrist, and the book is about the healing effects of gardening. So I definitely thought I would recommend this one for you
Yeah, I can
specifically.
attest to that. I spend a lot of time in that garden, and it is healing.
Yes, yes. I have a little garden in my windowsill, which is about the extent that I get to do it. But I love it. There's an app called Planta, and since I don't know much about that, I use the app and it tells me what I need to do for the different plants every day. So I've really gotten into it. I want to expand on this.
Nice.
And I've kind of gotten in the habit of when I'm recommending a book or talking about a book, I quote the epigraph if there is one. And this one has actually a couple of the ones I'm going to recommend today have great ones, but um, this book quotes Goethe. It says, all truly wise thoughts have been thought already thousands of times. We must think them over again honestly till they take root in our personal experience. And I really feel that very, very much. I have to prepare myself for changes and things like that by just sort of dwelling on it as long as I can until I finally accept it. Because I have a tendency to wake up in the morning and it's a brand new day and I forget all of the things that have impacted me previously.
Hey, well, you're
So,
welcome to come dig in our big garden because um, it gives you plenty of time to dwell and reset.
yes, I would love to. That would be great. I'm going to take you up on that for sure. The next one that I have been reading, and both of these are ones that I've ordered for the library in case anybody's uh, hopeful or interested in these. The next one is Slow Down: The End of the Great Acceleration and Why It's Good for the Planet, the Economy, and Our Lives. And this one just came out in May, and basically it can it compares society for the past several generations to a train that's been speeding up. And so now our generation is really comfortable with that previously totally unimaginable rate of speed. And we kind of expect it just to keep getting faster and faster. And but this author, Danny Dorling, argues that we're actually entering a slowdown in terms of um, population growth and all that kinds of thing. And so he thinks that it's the end of an era of the kind of exponential growth and technological advancement that we've enjoyed for the past couple hundred years or several generations. And so it's really thought-provoking. I don't know. I mean, and he even sort of admits that obviously he's not like predicting the future or saying that this is exactly what's going to happen, but it's, you know, it's exploring those ideas. So it's really interesting. I would recommend it for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the next one I'm finally getting around to reading. It was one that was suggested to me by our mutual friend Jocelyn. And she's been, every time I see her, she's like, "Have you started this book yet?"
Braiding
So
Sweetgrass?
no, that is
What is
that is also one of those. That's a good guess though. Everybody has recommended that one too. But it's called Winners Take All: The Elite Charade of Changing the World.
She
So
has
have you read that?
No, but she has recommended that to me too. So I I probably should read that too.
Yeah. So I'm winning in this case. So Jocelyn, if you're out there, I'm reading the book and Rachel is not. So, but it's by Anand Giridharadas, something. I think that's how I say it. And so here's the epigraph from this one, which I think is like the perfect summary of what the book is about. And it's from Tolstoy. And he says, I sit on a man's back, choking him and making him carry me, and yet assure myself and others that I am sorry for him and wish to lighten his load by all means possible, except by getting off his back. So, anyway, I think that is a good summary for that one. If you're interested in that kind of thing, this the author is he's a New York Times journalist, and he really does like an in-depth analysis of the idea of the elite sort of being saviors of our society when they really don't actually intend to do that at all. So a little political on that one, but
yeah, and uplifting. Political and uplifting.
Right, exactly. So I'm interested to know what you're reading these days.
So I'm reading like 5 different books.
Yes, I do the same.
I have a lovely commute to Caddo that's 40 minutes, and so it's amazing listening time. So that's where I get in my podcast and audiobooks. So I guess going with the political line, I am listening to How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, and it is it's really wonderful. I mean, it's really difficult because it causes a lot of self-reflection, but I guess that's the point. And so I tend to, when I find someone I like, I stalk them maybe on podcast as well. So I have been listening to, he's got a really great podcast with Brene Brown that I've listened to.
Oh yeah.
But and then I am in a book club, and Anne Collins Smith, who is a philosophy faculty at the university, this was her recommendation, and it's called Uprooted, and it's science fantasy, and it's actually been a lot of fun. So my husband and I are actually reading this one aloud. It's by Naomi Novik, and it's sort of a coming of age story about this young woman named Nishka who there's some great analogies in here with things we're going through now. There's this wood that is it's corrupting. We don't know why yet, because I'm not done with it, but it corrupts people either, and they either go crazy or they don't really know they're corrupted, but they start thinking, not great thoughts, and it's kind of a very interesting reading at this particular time in our world.
Yes.
And I am a bit of an herbalist, so I like wild food and medicine. I really like the weeds because I don't actually have to grow them like I have to do things in the garden. So I'm much better with that. So there's a new book called Wild Remedies by Rosalie de la Forêt and Emily Hahn that's really great with all different weeds that grow around here and recipes and medicine and all sorts of fun stuff. And then there's a book by Kimmy McBride called The Herbal Kitchen, which is great because you can just mix up healing herbal sprinkles and honeys and things that you can just have in the kitchen on your table. So those are kind of
Nice.
yeah. And the last one that I'm listening to before I got sidetracked with how to be an anti-racist is Courting the Wild Twin by Dr. Martin Shaw. Myth and folk tales and fairy tales are sort of a passion of mine, and they kind of go hand in hand with the job I do. And so I've been spending time with his books and stalking him on podcast as well.
Cool. I have not heard of that, so I'm going to check that out for sure.
Yeah, he has this
Courting the Wild.
Yeah, and he has this great essay that you can look for that he talks about how he thinks we are in underworld times. And so that's kind of fascinating.
Wow. That's awesome.
That
actually dovetails nicely. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's an awesome concept, maybe not so much reality.
Yeah.
But, it dovetails really nicely with my movie recommendations, actually, because I was just speaking with a coworker, Emily, actually, who does the podcast with me, and my favorite pastime, even more than recommending books to people, is recommending things to watch, and movies especially. And so we somehow came across, or I just recalled this movie that I hadn't thought about in years. It's called Shallow Grave. And it's from 1994. It's directed by Danny Boyle, and it's very dark comedy with Ewan McGregor and Christopher Eccleston. And and if you're into dark comedy, you will love it. If you're not, you might not be. You might want to skip that one because it's very black dark, you know. And then when we were talking about that film, it reminded me of another movie from 1995 called Last Supper. And have you seen either one of those?
I have not.
Okay, so yeah, they're kind of, Last Supper especially was super indie, and Shallow Grave was as well. And that was in the mid 90s. I was like super into film. I watched every single thing that came out that I could get my hands on. So this one is has Cameron Diaz and like one of her early roles, and Courtney B. Vance. Anyway, they're both very good. The Shallow Grave is about these three roommates who have they add a fourth, or a flatmate, I guess, and that flatmate dies, and then hijinks ensue. But the other one is about this group of young people. Again, this very trendy thing, I guess, at the time, for the people to live together, and they're like graduate students and very liberal, and they run across this guy who's like, I think his truck broke down or something, and so they invite him in for dinner, and he turns out to be like a really vile person, you know, and they accidentally kill him, and then they have to hide it, and then more hijinks ensue after that. So, like I said, very dark, but they're both funny and smart, and from the mid 90s, which I like to, you know, look back on. It's like a snapshot of a part of my life, I guess.
Nice.
And then I also, I haven't mentioned many shows in the podcast that have been on Amazon Prime, but I kind of go in waves. Like I'll watch only Netflix for a while and then Hulu. But lately I've been watching Amazon Prime again, and Fleabag is a show that you can watch there. It has 2 seasons.
I've almost started that several times.
Yes, you should. It's very unusual and wry, and it's based on Phoebe Waller-Bridge did a one-woman show, and then the show is based on that character. And anyway, it's also pretty dark, but it's hilarious. She's really dry, and she speaks directly to the camera throughout. Like, in just the middle of a scene, she'll just turn to the camera, which sometimes takes you out of it. But, in this case, I think it works really well. So I recommend that for sure. And same thing with Catastrophe, which is
That I've
about
watched.
an American. Oh, yeah. Are you all caught
No,
up
I
with
haven't
all the
seen the
seasons?
latest season.
Okay. Yeah, I watched, I think it's the fourth season. I finished that, but I really enjoy it. I love the lead actor. I think he's hilarious. Although that show is not always
I
hilarious.
know. Only sometimes.
I've got a Yeah, I have a theme going with my stuff too. It's all dark stuff lately, but darkly funny. So maybe I think that kind of describes me as a person anyway.
No, I get it.
But the other one that I'm just starting season 4 of this one is The Man in the High Castle, which is really well done, I think. But what have you been up to? What have you been watching or listening to?
Well, let's see. So um, not dark. My husband and I have been transitioning to, life. He was, for those of you who don't know, as he was critically wounded in that tornado. So he was in the hospital from April until February and is now living life as a quadriplegic, which is a huge adjustment in life. So what time I have for television is not dark. So we
Yeah.
watched we just finished the PBS masterpiece, the Jarrells in Corfu, and that was actually really
Oh yeah.
great. If you haven't seen it, it's about so there.
I haven't.
Yeah, it's based on truth on a real family, and I felt like an idiot when I didn't realize that. And a book that Jerry Durrell wrote called My Family and Other Animals. But they the matriarch of the family, she's widowed and she picks up and moves her family right before the start of World War II to Corfu in Greece, where they sort of live in paradise in this crazy eccentric lifestyle, and it's a really fun series. Um, so there's 4 seasons of it, and we watched that, and then pretty much through this whole ordeal since April, I have developed a thing for British mysteries. I don't know why, um, but I've gone through quite a few British mystery series, and so um,
Emily has a subscription to Acorn
yeah, I've
TV.
done that
Have
in
you?
BritBox, and I've gone back and forth because they switch off where the episodes are. It's super frustrating. Um,
Oh.
but right now we're watching Inspector Lewis. But I've been through many. But I will say that there's one called My Life is Murder that's set in Australia. And oh my God, I'm blanking. Lucy Lawless, who played Xena.
Oh yeah.
She's the
Yeah.
lead, and she's awesome. I didn't realize.
She's
Yeah,
fantastic.
she's fantastic, and I didn't. I just pictured Xena, but which I will admit I watched in the day. But
Me too. Yeah.
that one is totally worth it. Yeah, it's a
Cool.
really good one. And
Yeah, I love her.
yeah, so other than that, if there's a time for a movie, it's something kind of nostalgic in 80s or so, because that's my nostalgia time.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I definitely immediately go back to 90s and the 80s too. Like those movies are just you can watch them over and over again.
Many, many times.
The Jarrells of Corfu, we have it as a DVD at the
Uh-huh.
library, and that has been so popular. I've seen it just going out all the time, and I thought, well, I gotta jump on that bandwagon some point
Yeah,
because obviously,
it's really worth it. And then there's a when it ends and you're sad because you will be. There's like a follow up on what what the Durrells did next or something like that. That they actually talk about the real
oh,
people and their crazy continued eccentric lives later. I mean, one is a world famous author. I should know that. One's like a really big in the world of naturalists and zoos and animal working with saving endangered animal species. And I mean, like it's just it's yeah, it's really great.
I love this. This is like my favorite part of every week. Um, besides our little segment of what's making us happy
Mm.
this week. That's what's next. And so I haven't laughed so much in months as I did recording one of the kids' videos yesterday. We made like stick puppets of Beauty and the Beast, and um, you may Lisa
Yeah.
Lallimondier. She's working at the library now, and she's playing the Beast, and our program coordinator Emily is playing Beauty, and I'm the narrator. And I thought I would play you a snippet so that you could get an idea about what we're getting up to over here. And we just in the clip, Lisa surprised us all with her dramatic interpretation of the beast roaring. So uh, we could barely keep it together. So I thought I'd play it for you, and hopefully you can hear it well enough. We'll see here.
Oh, Beast, you can't leave me. I love you.
Then the beast rose up and transformed into a human prince.
Your love has broken the spell. A long time ago.
Maybe his voice should be less Beast.
Yeah, yeah, take it down. So, could you hear that?
Yes.
Because she had been the beast, but she was supposed to have turned into the prince, but he retained his beastliness. So that was definitely what's making me happy this week. How about you?
Let's see. Well, like I said, I get to play in a beautiful garden with giant sunflowers, which, by the way, everybody, the site is actually open. The trails are open, and the visitor center is limited with the number of people who can go in, but it's open Wednesday through Sunday. But we have giant sunflowers and so many different kinds of butterflies and dragonflies that it's part of my job to run around and take pictures of. So that makes me happy. And I got to make an elderflower syrup. Elderflowers are in bloom, and my brother-in-law made me a super delicious elderflower syrup cocktail, which made me extremely happy. So yeah.
Maybe that should be another segment. Like, what are you drinking now?
Butterflies and cocktails.
So what is elderflower syrup?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If you get a chance, if you know what an elderberry, tree looks like, they're in bloom everywhere. They have big white umbrels. It's not actually an umbral, but that's the only word that's coming to mind. So all you botanist people out there, you're correcting me right now. But so they have these beautiful white umbrels, and if you smell them, they smell beautiful, and that's what it tastes like. But it's not. It's kind of a delicate taste, but not one that I can necessarily relate to another flavor. But they're really good, and the flowers, if you dry them and drink them hot in tea, they actually are really helpful for breaking fevers. They're really gentle, so like for kids, they're a good one, and so they're just like a really mild tasting flower.
I am intrigued.
Just smell. We have elder growing in the garden too. It showed up and we let it stay. So if you come out to Caddo, you can, take a whiff.
I will. I also want to try one of those.
Yeah, well,
too, so
that's for sure.
Maybe not
on the backyard.
Not while
maybe not at work.
Right. Well, I just want to thank you so much for doing this. And it's been lovely to talk to you. And we're going to keep doing this every Friday. So a new episode will come out every week. And I have been loving having guests. So I think I'm going to keep doing that. So thank you again. And I'm
All
gonna
right. Well,
wrap it
thanks,
up now.
Crystal. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you.